What's up? What's up? How's everyone doing tonight? I'm gonna jump into the topic for tonight, and then I'm gonna come back later on tonight for some block drops, because there's a lot of news out there that I have not touched on yet, but I really want to get into what's going on the screen first. Lots of links to share. I'm gonna have some guests on. You don't want to miss that. I want to get all kinds of perspectives on this. And honestly, my perspectives are pretty layered, to be honest. And you might not like some of the things I have to say. You might love some of the things I have to say. But there are going to be some things that everyone's going to agree on. I promise you that.
Black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by cops than white men.
They don't want us to succeed.
How much more do we have to take?
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome back to the Leon Block. I'm Jontel. As you know, I'm going to be talking about the Chappelle special that dropped this week. Last week, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention until people put it in my sphere. Because why else would I be talking about a fucking comedian? I don't know. Because everybody else is talking about him, I guess. So I do want to get into some things because I did watch it today. I finally watched it, and I had some notes that I wrote down. And look, y'all, like, there's two sides to this, right? Like, there is two sides to this, Joe, and I think that a lot of people, if you don't say what they want you to say, and how, you know, if you don't agree with what they say, they automatically want to write you off. And that comes from both sides of the joint. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure that you hear me. I want you to hear me. You know what I'm saying? I want you to find something in what I'm saying that you can relate to and understand. So if you happen to hear something you might not like or you disagree with, I just urge you to keep listening. This is what we're here for, but I also like to tie together everything. I like to tie shit together, and I can always see all sides of an argument, right? I want everyone to walk away with an understanding of someone else's viewpoint and experience, or as close to it as possible. We're all having a living experience, right? So let us respect that. My viewpoints are multi-layered, so I had to break it down based off of the sequencing of the special. And I guess as I share my thoughts, I'll let others chime in. Let me just go ahead and drop the clip for people that want to chime in. So for anyone who wants to join in, I did post the link. If you want to join in on the discussion and comment, for those who are friends with me on my Facebook page, you're not that special if you're friends with me on my Facebook page, but you can actually find the link there and join in on the chat. Now, I guess what I want to start with is, where do I want to start with this angle? Because there's so much I really want to get into and discuss. On one hand, you have a lot of people coming for Chappelle, and then on the other hand, you have a lot of people not necessarily defending Chappelle, but defending comedy and the art. I don't really see many people necessarily defending Chappelle, because again, like, Chappelle's like another Eminem. Like, he always says crude and fucked up shit. So many people expect him to say fucked up shit. So I'm gonna start from literally the beginning. Or where I started taking notes was when he started making comments about the baby, right? I don't know much about that situation. I know what he said. I know what the baby said, right? And it's fucked up. Do I think that he should have gotten canceled? Yes, I do. And I get the point that Chappelle was trying to make about the baby, but it really wasn't. I mean, honestly, the whole special. I mean, for those who don't know Chappelle and never watch this shit, it's always going to be crude humor. There's going to be things that make you just feel a little icky. But this particular special was a different kind of humor than I've seen him have. And so, like, I do feel like he was trying to make a really big point about this special. I feel like a lot of people are taking the things he said literal and not looking at it for face value, or looking at it at face value and not taking some of the undertones of what he was saying to try and paint a picture. And I get some people are taking that picture that he attempted to paint and simplifying it and making out to be like he's just another ignorant person. And in a lot of ways, I can agree with that. He is a very ignorant person on one hand, but then on the other hand, he uses his art to express like a lot of things that, number one, a lot of other people won't touch on, but also, hold on one second. Someone's trying to join. Let me see how I can get this person on here. God dang, I post a lot of shit. So the thing about the baby is, like, I could give a fuck about him. When it comes to Dave Chappelle, I mean, I grew up watching him, so in a lot of instances, I understand his humor. And I'm not condoning it either, by any means. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this shit right and send people links and stuff. There are people who want to join in on the discussion, so I'm trying to send them the links for it. right, all right, all right. So the thing that I do want to touch on, uh, because there are so many different people saying so many different things, and they're from so many different demographics, and it makes this whole situation, this whole debate, this whole special, and the talking around it difficult to navigate depending on where your demographics lie, your intersections or lack of intersections may lie. You may feel like you don't have a place or space to speak on it, or you may feel like you have every right to speak on it and fuck everybody else's opinion. And like from my perspective as a Black queer man, someone who identifies as such, I want to make sure that my perspective gets put through to the fullest, because when it comes to a lot of what was discussed in this special, I feel like I have a lot to say, and I really want to put it in a not delicate way, but I want to make sure that I describe all of what I'm feeling. I can't speak to transgender people and transgender people's issues. So I'm really not going to touch that much on that. I will say that it was fucked up. I will say that I understand the backlash behind that. Oh wow, there's two guests. Oh wow. Okay, all right, we got two guests on, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and add both the people to the stream. What's going on, everyone? You can take your cameras off because this is just a podcast, so just shut your camera off. So again, I wanted to bring some guests on to really dig into the Chappelle special called The Closer or The Closer. I don't know what the fuck he titled it as or what the meaning behind that is. But so I went through the whole sequencing of the joint and I wrote down notes to how I feel about certain things or the perspective of what the general conversation is about this, right? And so I just want to introduce everyone real quick to John Mina and Parker Webb, who are two guests. You can't see them, but they're here.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on? What's going on?
I'm doing good. It's been a minute since I talked to you.
I know, right? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in on the conversation.
Oh, anytime, my brother. Anytime.
And then we got Parker Webb. Are you here? Oh, maybe I didn't add. Parker, you there? Interesting. Okay. So I kind of talked on the baby real quick, and the thing I have to say about that is like I get the jokes behind, let me negotiate, and I think that there's a lot of deeper context that a lot of people aren't really talking about or don't want to talk about, or they'll skim over the surface and say, okay, well, it doesn't matter. He's still being ignorant. He's still being vulgar, this, that, and the third. I half get that. My thing is, even as a Black queer man, I'm still looking at certain things from why is everyone cancel culturing Black men over anybody else? And I a lot of times I get stuck on that. Oh, you must have.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Listen, I think here's what I'll say about Dave, and I'll give some context here, right? So for anyone who is 30 and up,
right?
So early millennial to about like late Gen Xers, right? And some baby boomers, some old younger baby boomers.
Right.
You got to understand like who Dave Chappelle is to the culture, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people are holding on to Dave as this caricature of 2004 circa I'm Rick James bitch. Uncle
right.
What was he? Uncle what was it? Where was the black white Klansman? There's so
yes,
many iconic
things. Right.
Clayton Bigsby, excuse me. And just so all of you guys know, I am African American. I'm going to start quoting him a little bit here, but because they can't see my face. But like he is a lot of different things, and over the years he's been very controversial to the extent of he's just coming out there. He's not just saying nigger on the show; he's saying nigger, right? And so I get where now you have people that are bringing up like his comedy and him making fun of or
Mm-hmm.
joking or laughing around with. And here's what I'll say to that is the Dave Chappelle show would not be greenlit in 2021. Let's put that in
Right.
perspective. And
Right.
it's just like every great comedy show of this decade, like, and Living Color would not get away with its stuff now. And because even
Right.
if you look about in Living Color, even though like the Wayans brothers are not like advocacy of the queer spaces, right? People back then will go, well, they're kind of highlighting them a little bit with like some of their caricatures, like doing
Right.
like the scandalous. Well, again, it was the '90s. Now we're looking at it was the 2000s, right? And so
Right.
we're at the crux of this hero to so many, who is he's not right. I do want to take a stand,
Yes.
but
Right.
I do want to say this. I do not want to cancel him, but it's not for the reason why most think.
Right.
I don't want to cancel this special because I don't want to lionize him. I do not want him to go down in infamy. Oh, this was the first dude that a Netflix special that got banned. This is that banned shit. You know what I'm talking about? I don't want him to make history or be lionized for that. I know that that's an offensive notion to people, and I'm cishet. So please,
Mm-hmm.
please, please interrupt me and tell me I'm wrong. I will listen in those spaces. I fear in a situation like that of censorship, you will turn a harmful individual, because at this point he's being harmful, in my opinion. You will turn a harmful individual into a martyr, and this absolutely. It's kind of like when people say, "I wish Donald Trump died." Like, no, you know the fuck. You don't want him to die in office. People are
Right.
going to talk nice about him. They're going to forget all that shit. The dirty immigrants. They're going to forget all. No, let's not
Yes.
lionize him. Let's not
Yes.
make a
Yes.
martyr out of him. He's not doing anything. And I can definitely get into some of the other history stuff. I feel like I've been going on a little rant here, but I just kind of wanted to start off by saying all that.
My thing, see, and on that note, and I talked about the R. Kelly situation last week and had a whole thing about that and how it's multi-layered because it's a black man basically becoming a martyr. Like, why aren't all the other white celebrities that did far worse? And I'm not saying that he should not be penalized, because he should be. Why are they not getting the same treatment and being pushed to the forefront of the media like the rest of them, like him? And that's kind of my bone to pick on this tip, and just this small tip with Chappelle is like, why is he getting thrown in and trying to be canceled? And I'm not condoning the things that he said again. And if you listen to the beginning of this podcast, I will reiterate, and I'm not going to touch on it again. Listen to the full podcast, because there's a lot of things I have to say. Do not jump the fuck on me and assume you know my full thoughts about things, because I'm speaking from multi-layers here and different intersections. I am a black queer man, and I have a lot of different perspectives. I've been through a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of things. So on one hand, I'm pansexual, which doesn't really make a difference when it comes to understanding where you're coming from. But on one hand, I do understand where you're coming from, John. Because I grew up watching Dave Chappelle.
Right.
I grew up with being uncomfortable with many of his jokes, but also understanding a lot of the context behind it and how difficult some of the things were for people to understand or bear. But that uncomfortability led to a deeper understanding, in my opinion, when it came to certain topics.
You know, can I jump and tell you something real quick?
Yeah.
I didn't start becoming intersectional in my activism and understandings until like 2015, like 2014. I probably myself, right, being the advocate that I was, and I would tell you, oh man, I love people, everyone's equal, right? I probably didn't stop saying the F word until 2013, 2014. That's 7 years. That's within this decade. Like, people will tell you all this and that, right? And they'll try.
But guess what? But listen to this. Right. I still say faggot. I still say cunt. I still say nigga.
Right.
But it depends on who I'm speaking to and the context around it, the environment I'm in. And I'm not saying that it's okay or that it's a good thing. What's for you is for you. But it depends on who I'm speaking to. I'm not saying those things to offend anyone. And I understand the implications that they have when I speak them.
Most definitely. And I think with you being a part of, I don't like calling it a community. With you being you, right?
Right.
You being your beautiful self. There's some ownership you can take with all of those words. I hate when people call it the LGBTQ community. It's like a sense of like micro, not even micro, it's this macro level of otherizing a bunch of people. Nah, it's these individuals being themselves. That's period, point blank, period. And so, yeah, so what I was saying, and I was agreeing with you more so along the lines of that, like, we aren't terribly far removed from being all harmful bigots ourselves.
Right.
Even the people who are making these transitions are like, oh my God, why were we doing this, right? Why are we? Because like, and Dave Chappelle has a special place in even the most, I would say most Black people's heart. He's going to have some type of special space there.
Well,
And that's what's
this
so
is something
complicated.
that's common with Black people in general, because we don't get seen as visible or in all the avenues of what's deemed as successful. It doesn't matter what the fuck bad you've done. We're still gonna ride for you because you're Black and you're motherfucking successful. Point blank. We don't have to agree or condone the things that you've done. We're still gonna stand by you if someone comes and attacks you because you're one of us.
Right. And so that's where Dave, this is where Dave gets super complex for me, because
Right.
like he does pull a situation where he is kind of pitting different marginalized groups against each other.
Without a doubt.
And that's like that is kind of, I'll be frank about it, like Dave is getting older. I'll
Yes.
leave that at what that is, respectability. Let's talk about Dave for a second. Dave
Right.
is quietly a Hotep or a Pan-Africanist, whatever you
He
want to
sure
call
is.
it.
Yes.
He doesn't say it out loud, but quietly with his views on not just women, but it was his views on like Black people. You don't even hear
Yeah.
about it. You remember when he was talking about the teenager from Florida who put someone in a pile driver and he killed the person, and he said they gave that nigga life. And he was referring to another joke. This was like this was years ago. This might have been like 10. His like stand up in Oakland, I believe. This might be like almost 15 years ago. But he was always advocating for Black people. The thing about him, especially in the specials, is he kind of always, he didn't necessarily advocate for everybody, but he definitely always advocated for Black people and talked
Yes.
about the disparities in America. And so like he's always been Pan-Africanist or Hotep, whatever like little weird intersection with throw him in. So if you don't understand what those intersects do or what they don't do, right?
Right.
It's very easy to understand that like most of Black activists in America to this day have an ounce of Pan-African activism in their spirit if they're Black, whether that's from the school of Malcolm X, whether that's from the school of Marcus Garvey, whether that's just from the Nation of Islam, whether that is from Stokely, the Black
Mhm.
Panthers.
Right.
I'm not saying that like all of them follow Pan-Africanism to a T, but when it comes to the Black man either being godly or the Black man being this or Black is beautiful, there's a lot of Pan-Africanism
Yeah.
to almost all of our activism. So it gets difficult when you get into these spaces. I'm sure you already realize that.
Mm-hmm. As a queer Black man, I kind of feel you can't take the Black off of me, and it's visible. It's there. And so he made comments about the black people and the Black movement not hating the gay community but being jealous. Like mostly white LGBT people can benefit so fast off of the benefits of the perceived progression of LGBTQ plus people, but I don't necessarily feel the benefits of that because I'm still Black and there's nothing I could do about that. So on another front, I can't help but still feel regressed as a Black man, but almost like I'm being taunted with progression, but it's a false progression because I don't feel like I'm benefiting from that necessarily. I don't feel like I've progressed as a gay person in the community or whatever, I feel like I'm still right where I am because I'm Black. And he brought up the story of fuck.
You're talking about the suffragist, Susan B.
No,
Anthony?
it was prior to that. The story about when he was in the bar and
When the white person called the cops on him?
yes.
The white gay man?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. That's my thing. Like he said something about fuck, where did I put it? I'm pretty sure I made notes of it somewhere. But like
When he called the cops on him, yeah, I know exactly. I'll kind of quote it here. When that
yeah.
man called the cops on him, he knew what he was doing essentially when he
Yep.
did that. Because if that was a gay Black man, they're not looking. I'm looking for Chad. No, he's looking
Correct.
for all the
Right.
Black people. I know exactly
Right.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said gay people are minorities until they need to be white again. And I don't have the luxury to flash my gay card and always get away with something. I will say in my defense that I have pulled the gay card and gotten away with things. But it was only by being assisted by a white person. So you can't say that you can't say that it was me and me flashing my gay card that made it work. But when he explained that story, I felt that shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it, and like throughout history, it's not that he made no valid points. It's just like it's kind of like he did like a. I think everyone here is familiar with Umar Johnson. He pulled like an Umar Johnson because he will come out there and he'll say some things about, yeah, I agree with this. No, now I don't. You're crazy. Or no, you went a little too far for me, brother. Went a little too far. And it's kind of like one of those situations where when you're a marginalized group, say like Black people specifically, let's just stay on Black people, not kind of complicate the scenario. When you're talking about our group, right? We have been invited last to the table historically every time, right?
Yep.
And so he absolutely has valid points that I think the term I'm looking for here is he commingled valid points with like his personal vendettas. And I think when you do that, right, I think you kind of denigrate someone who actually could make a difference. And I think that was his missed opportunity there. I don't even think you really need to like get up here and talk about cancel culture or talk about trans people not getting your joke. That's just a fact of life. Like a gay person called the cops on me and they were white and they weaponized their whiteness.
Yes.
That's his own point. So I think Dave struggled by trying to out genius himself. And so I've always said this and I'll continue to say this. Dave is the reason why Dave is one of the most like smartest and like probably best at what he's doing. He's someone that can make something really serious, really disturbing, funny.
Right.
And so one of the biggest things someone always told me, and I never really understood it until I like really peeled the layers back. But it was a special a few years ago where he asked, "How old is 13 really?" And he was talking about R. Kelly. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's where the pile driver came. That's where he commingled the story between the teenager in Florida who did a pile drive like fake wrestling and got life in prison from accidentally murdering someone, and then talked about at the age of 13, would you notice you wanted to get peed on or not?" And like the super like you think about it, like how many people could really pull that off? It's a disturbing topic. It's a really sensitive subject. But he got through the end of it. I was like, "Oh shit! Like, how did you fucking do this Houdini act, right?" And that's I think like somebody like at the end of his first special, which came out in 2017 for Netflix, that's where he was talking about the trans person at the bar, and that's where all of this like started on the national standpoint, and so like he's been digging his heels into that ever since that like bit. It's I forget the name of it, but it was a two-parter. Came out 2017 on Netflix, and he was talking about interaction. Oh yeah, he was talking about a trans woman and her balls, And this is what like sparked. And so after that, people responded, and so he kept on digging into it each special afterwards. Because you look, where Sticks and Stones was his last special, and he was talking about he called them the Alphabet Gang. I don't know if you remember that. And that's the one where he went over. He said Juicy Smouye.
Now see, yeah, I did see. See, my thing is like I haven't been on Chappelle since the Chappelle show, so like I haven't paid him any mind. When I heard he went to Africa and he came back, he just seemed different. Like I feel like he's a just completely different person. That's not a good or a bad thing. It just is what it is. But like he's just meaty and old, and so I don't take to him anymore. So like I could give a flying fuck until this came out, and then I started hearing about some of the things he said before. Again, knowing the context of who Chappelle is, I shrugged it off. I do want to jump back on some things. Speaking of, we got another guest on too, Parker. Parker Webb, can you speak up just so I can make sure I can hear you? Parker, you there? Right. Parker, can you hear us? I guess not. What the hell? All right, so I did want to jump back on a couple other things I did want to touch on, because I feel like this was so layered, and people are, trying to say he's pinning minorities against each other. What the heck? But and like I can understand. Hold on.
Yep.
Okay, so what I want to touch on is what I really want to harp on for me in my experience, because I have someone else who's going to touch on the comments that he made concerning transgender people, because it really, I will say that, and I'll jump back to that, but I'll just say first that like some of everything that he said was, as far as the language goes, problematic.
Harmful.
But when you step back and look at things, there were pieces of what he was saying or trying to portray that I did really take to in some ways. So like overall, I wasn't necessarily laughing at this special. I definitely found it pleasurable from a Dave Chappelle standpoint, because I know what to expect with him. I know there's going to be shit that he's going to say that's going to make my jaw drop. I know there's going to be shit that he's going to say that's going to make me uncomfortable. But me knowing him and knowing like where I've come from and the environments that I've been put in, I've been around, it's very complicated. I've been around many men. It doesn't make it all right, but I've been around many men that are a part of a certain kind of culture. And I'm not even saying that Dave Chappelle is necessarily full 100% on that type tip. You know what I mean? But in a lot of many ways he is. I'm pretty sure he can spot toxic masculinity, but it doesn't mean that he still doesn't make a mockery of it and feed into it. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of things that he says that like, and a lot of people have issue with what I say when I say this, but get a pass on because of understanding the culture. And I'm not saying that the culture is, the things that go on in our culture are okay, but it's more of an understanding. So when people are so quick to cancel somebody or point fingers or faults, I'm like, well, are you pointing fault because you understand the complexities of this? Or are you pointing fault just because you're jumping down and you're on your high horse and you want to jump down and just pin shit and arrest people for no fucking reason? Just like that big dude, that big white dude that called the cops on him. Like it goes back to that whole point. And that's what frustrates the fuck out of me, because so many people are just so quick to jump on and attack this shit without understanding or attempting to understand the complexities of this. I don't care what your stance is on it. Just make sure that your stance is multi-layered in the understandings and intricacies of this whole thing, because it's bigger than Dave Chappelle. It's way bigger than Dave Chappelle. And people are wanting to focus in on him when we already know who the fuck he is. We already know who he is. We already know what he's into. Okay. We've got some comments. Gloria Miller brings in some comments, some quotes. I love black people, but I hate niggers, boy. Boy, I wish they let me join the Ku Klux Klan. Shit, I do a drive-by from here to Brooklyn. That was Chris Rock, Bring the Pain, 96 on HBO. Snoop Dogg. I'm not done. Snoop Dogg. Use a nigga when you born. A nigga when you dying. Nigga quit lying. Use a nigga for life. Use a nigga when you rioting. A nigga when you sliding. Nigga quit trying. Use a nigga for life. Muhammad Ali on intermarriage. No intelligent black man or black woman in his or her right black mind wants white boys and white girls coming to their homes to marry their black sons and daughters. So, I'm going to let you speak real quick, and then I'm going to get my thoughts on those.
Man, I don't really have any response to those comments, so I'm gonna let you cook on that, and then we can kind of get back into Dave. I want you to respond to that.
So, again, like I said, that this is very complicated, and I hope that many different people of many different backgrounds are watching. What I've witnessed today alone is people from all different sides speaking as if this solely is about them, and it's not. It's not about black people specifically and solely. It's not about the LGBTQ plus community solely. It's not about women or feminists solely. It's not about cancel culture solely. It's about a lot of those things, all of those things, and much more interwoven into stuff. And people, I feel, I'm seeing people pick parts out and just jumping on that and sticking with it as a means to cancel him or stick behind him. And that's the problem that I particularly am having with people that's just jumping on a bandwagon just to have something to say without understanding the full context behind it or giving a full picture of or a detailed opinion about where they lie on this. It's just one little stick that they have, which is like talking points of someone else that they heard repeating something.
And with that in mind, it's most people, and this is not like, I'm not trying to denigrate or disrespect. I don't care really what side you are on this. Most people really can't digest.
Hey Shay, what's up, love?
Sorry, go ahead. No, you're good. Most people can't digest stuff like this, right? And so like they'll get up there, and so you'll get a lot of their commentary will be like in the form of a meme. It's because whoever's writing is speaking for them, and they just can't type out, speak on what they're feeling or how they're feeling. So it's easy for them to pinpoint on one topic. So just to kind of like nail in here, and I'll say this for anybody who wants to hear it, doesn't want to hear it. It's just like cishet people, doesn't matter if you're black or white, we all do have to do a better job of knowing where our breakdowns are. And you could have seen this on my status yesterday. There is a complete fucking breakdown on people don't know what gender actually is.
Right.
That's the first thing. Like before we get into Dave, because Dave is the symptom, the root of this, right? It started with the joke back in 2017.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you, Shay.
We live in a country where people do not understand that gender is a social construct, and that your sex is the thing that's actually being studied in the science, and science changes. So all of this stuff, even if you want to say science is the fact, right? Science, because science develops over years through theories and testing and challenges to those theories, right? That even changes. Our ideas of what sex will, not even our ideas, sex, the understanding of sex can evolve over time just through the basis of science. But gender as a whole, because nobody knows what the fuck gender is, and I keep running into that. A bunch of people came together, whoever was running our society at the time, and said, This is a boy. This is a man. Here's the things that boys and men do. You can be grandfathers. You can be grandsons. You can be a son. You can be a brother. You can be an uncle. Here's what girls do. Here's what, and they said, an adult male is a man. An adult female is a woman. A child male is a boy. A child female is a girl. And they started assigning all of these roles, which were created by who? The society that inherited the earth. All of that stuff is up for interpretation. So like, I keep having people try to like talk down or try to really argue what gender is, and I'm just like, well, hold up. If you don't understand what gender is, can you not talk about Dave Chappelle? Because Dave is being Dave, right? But I bet you could tell me what gender was. I bet you could do. You guys can't even tell me what gender is.
Now that's where I feel like, and I can't fully speak on this because I'm not a transgender person, but I am understanding that there were things that he said that was problematic. Yeah, I figured, Shay. Shit, that just distracted me. I forget where I was going with it. Go ahead.
It's all good, brother. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a bunch of people taking and having takes, but they don't know the difference between science and sociology. And so, like, I come from the school of sociology with a kind of a macro understanding of like what the science is behind all of this. That's just not my go-to, but the sociology behind it is pretty clear. And so now that's the frustrating part about all of this, is listening to people talk, and I'm just like, you just don't get it. And sometimes when you don't get it, that's okay, but shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Because the thing about it is, and I will continue to say this, I've said this before, without as far as Black people, I cannot speak for the white LGBTQ movement. I can speak for white feminism. White feminism is a bunch of bullshit. But if it weren't for our queer brothers and sisters, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, and the Black women, the civil rights movement of the last century would not be where it is today for what they've done in the trenches. And so we as cishet people owe our livelihoods to continue to vehemently advocate and inform people, like, no, that, because this is the lowest bar of advocatism, to inform a person what gender is. When I tell somebody or correct someone on what's the difference between gender or sex, that is such low bar activism. That is me telling them, hey, they're a human being too. That is like, what we're doing out here, even on the cis-het spectrum, is not fucking enough. And so we always have to be super aware and super on the offensive to protect everyone who is marginalized within our own marginal group. And that's kind of where I stand, because it is my job to continue to advocate for you guys the way that I advocate for straight Black men who get shot down in the street.
Right.
I have to advocate for you all because I have power in rooms that a transgender Black woman doesn't have. I have power in rooms that a gay Black man doesn't have. Right. People will listen to me. And that is a fact. It's not up for debate. And so I have a burden. And I'm not calling anybody out here, but straight Black men who are doing this civil rights work, if you don't hear them right now, that is something you want to keep an eye on. I'm being serious, and I don't care what side they're taking, but that silence too, if they call themselves like an activist or an advocate in your community and they're quiet on this, that speaks louder volumes than being on the wrong side of this.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep 100 on that one.
Completely agree. I think, and someone else touched on it. This, no matter what your stance is or viewpoint is, whether you're in support of Dave Chappelle or you're not, I don't give a fuck. But the point is that this is sparking conversation about it. Now, I will say, it also has increased discrimination and ignorance. But with that being said, that also increases an opportunity to educate and correct people and hold people accountable and call them the fuck out. And that is one thing I do want to touch on when it comes to Chappelle, is that, like, we already know what he's gonna say or how he's gonna say things, but we also should hold him accountable for things that he has said that's problematic. I do strongly feel that way. But I also feel like, where do we draw the line of like picking at everything every single person says?
I mean, I think that's pretty easy, right? Like, I think what you do in these scenarios is you just call what Dave did wrong, right?
Right.
If you want to be true to like what's going on, right? And I'm talking specifically about black people, no one else. Everyone else can just listen to me at this point. I think what you do is you do one of two things. You either continue to uplift him because he's speaking your language, and if he's speaking your language, you're harmful. But because there's a double-edged sword here, because he did advocate for black people, you also then have to go back and say, okay, well, this is my brother and he's making a mistake. It is my duty to talk about his mistakes and talk about where he was wrong, and that is okay. I think that's the difference. I think that's the boundary you're talking about. It's not canceling necessarily, but like when someone's fucking wrong,
You tell them they're fucking wrong.
You just tell them they're wrong, like right.
Yeah.
You don't automatically. And this is where it gets kind of weird because like in the trans world, they're being murdered. Because in several states in the country, there's like a flight that it's called like almost like a trans fright like law. Like, oh, I got in the bed with someone, they had a penis, I blacked out and killed them. Like that's a thing.
My God.
That's like a thing in several states. I think it's starting to be slowly eradicated, right? And that's such bullshit from the start. But someone revealing their genitals to you, you murdering them, you're just a fucking murderer. It's ridiculous. But moving forward, the issue becomes is like this is super delicate because people's lives are on the line. So like that's where your conundrum is like, okay, do we just tell someone that they're wrong and try to like reintegrate and try to like restore, or do we just kind of like, oh no, just go fucking be crazy in your own lane? And that just depends on the people who are really at the forefront of this discussion, which isn't us. It'd be our transgender brothers and sisters, right? And they need to be dictating their terms on that. And I'm saying brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about trans white people. I'm not talking about them. Because like right now, as I said in my status, trans black women are being murdered at such historic rates. Like they are in danger. And so like when Dave talked about this white trans woman Daphne as a prop, that was bullshit. That was unadulterated bullshit. Like, come on now. You're talking you essentially, and I want everyone to hear me when I said there is no difference between what Dave did there and then what Calvin Candy did to Django at that goddamn dinner table when he called him bright boy and 1 in 1,000. He's like, you are that 1 in 1,000 nigga. And he was, because at that point in time, Django was playing it up. He was a slaver. He didn't take no shit, and he was smart, and he was all these other things that Calvin actually liked because he was almost white in that sense. And when Daphne didn't get like offended and all this other stuff, Dave felt validated and wanted to say, well, when a trans woman came to me and wasn't offended, I gave her an opportunity. Well, one, yeah, you did give someone equity. Okay, here's your little treat for that. But then two, that's all for your ego. You didn't move the needle there. And then to even impose or try to like signify that her getting bullied on the internet is why she killed herself. Well, let's look at the whole LGBTQ plus community where suicide is at an all-time high amongst even all intersex, every race in the LGBTQIA, every intersection, there's high rates of suicide. Like and this is what you're trying to do. This is what you're trying to say. People bullied her on the internet, and then she killed herself days later. I know what you did there. I'm not stupid.
Right.
So don't treat me like I'm dumb.
But you also, to point out, understand his actual target audience and the people that tend to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think he was just trying to play up to them. Do you know what I mean? Now, you definitely pick that story apart, and a lot of things you're saying, you're right. Like a lot of people couldn't see right through that. But I think a lot of the people that are calling, not for him to be canceled, but for him to be held accountable, see straight through that shit. You know what I mean? And you pointed out a lot of shit that was spot on. Like, it's kind of like, look at it from a white person perspective, having the token black guy, or the Candace Owens. Like, it's kind of what he tried to do, and think that most black people would fall for it, and some black people did. But I'm also seeing a lot of black people like, nigga, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Yep, and what Shay said. Yep, and now she's dead, and he makes money off that bit. 50% of us try to KOS. You know what?
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Now, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I want to take a pause real quick, because Parker has been trying to get into this. Oh, Parker has been trying to get into this chat forever, and I wanted to make sure that I have a trans voice on this chat to speak from a trans perspective, because we're neither one of us. You're a cis hetero man, and I'm sitting here as a queer black man, but we can't really speak from the trans person's experience. We just are people that really care and just see people for who they are, and can speak and call out the bullshit as we see it. But it's still important to have a person from the community as being affected to speak on things. So I do just want to touch on some things that Parker has at least talked about, and he sent me a bunch of stuff, because literally he's been trying to get in this chat for the whole time. And he tried to speak, and his mic, I guess, is not letting him speak. Now, there was a few articles that brought some stuff out too, that I am going to go ahead and just drop into the comments, because I want y'all to read this shit. I guess Gloria got tired of us ignoring her, so she jumped off. It was clearly a racist troll that just wanted to stir up some stuff. So I apologize for anyone who did see some of those comments that I posted. Oh, let me see if... Hello? Who's on? Anybody there? Hello? Wowza. So I had two different guests. I don't know where they went. I can hear someone. Hello? Anybody there? I see both of you are on the stream, but I can't hear anyone speaking.
Hey, Jontel, the audio on this sounds kind of crazy right now.
Really? Hold on 1 second. How about now? Anything now? About now, y'all? Can y'all hear me okay? Can anyone hear me okay?
I hear something, but your audio sounds off.
Wowza. Okay, let me
Oh jeez. I'm gonna leave and come back, right?
yeah, what I'm gonna do is exit, and then we'll just start back over.